From Coghlan Kia, get into a new Kia now with $0 down. Get 0% financing on select new Kias and make 0 payments for 3 months on any new Kia in stock. Visit CoglanKia.com.
Coghlan has the car for you.
0% for 72 equals $13.89 per 1,000 financed on Nero EV, EV6, and EV9 with approved credit through Kia Motor Finance. 90 days deferred payments until June 2025. Qualified manufacturer incentives to dealer. Prior sales excluded. No security deposit. Residency restrictions may apply. Offers cannot be combined. See dealer for details. Ends 3/31/25.
This is Greg Trzynski from the Original Mattress Factory. A few years back, there was a surge of online mattress companies offering a one-feel-fits-all mattress. Eventually, they all added more selections. Why? They discovered what we've known for over 30 years. Everyone has unique preferences. At the Original Mattress Factory, we handled a range of comfort choices so that you can select the one that suits you best. Don't rely on someone else's opinion. Try out a variety of options and find the one that's right for you. OriginalMattress.com.
Get ready to win big at Eldorado Saturday Downs, your ultimate Caesars Rewards destination. You can earn rewards every time you play or dine with the largest and most rewarding loyalty program. With over 1,700 of the hottest and newest games, along with award-winning craft drafts at the Brew Brothers Microbrewery, and a one-of-a-kind celebrity chef dining experience at Guy Fieri's Trattoria, featuring a mouth-watering 68-layer lasagna, Saturday Downs is the place to be. Go experience it all yourself, where the rewards never stop. Visit Caesars.com/Saturdaydowns for more info. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hi, it's Jenny and Bill from Simple Bath and Kitchen. We are so excited that we can now offer 5-year 0% financing.
That's right, Jenny. After 15 years of bringing Columbus on time, on budget, top-notch craftsmanship remodels, we can now bring that to everybody in Columbus.
We are so excited. And learn more about it at simplebathandkitchen.com.
That's simplebathandkitchen.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Support life-saving cures for children in our community. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, stjude.org.
I copy out. We're good. We're going to
your station for news, traffic, and weather in Central Ohio. News Radio 610 WTVN Columbus, WODC HD2 Asheville, an iHeartRadio station.
No interruptions. ABC's Selena Wang.
It came down to the wire, but the government is staying open, and that's because a small group of Democrats joined Republicans to pass a spending bill that will keep the government funded through September. But some Democrats, they're angry about this. They argue that Republican-written bill empowers President Trump and Elon Musk to continue to slash government spending without getting approval from lawmakers. But Democrats, Senator Chuck Schumer, he argues that allowing the government to shut down would be even worse, and it would give Trump and Musk even more power.
At least 16 tornado-related deaths, 11 in Missouri, and ahead, says ABC News forecaster Samara.
The atmospheric ingredients that are coming together this morning are going to produce not just a rare event, but we're talking a significant potential for a tornado outbreak. Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, Alabama, up to Louisville. Right now, we're under a tornado watch until 10 a.m.
A matter of evidence, ABC's Melissa Dunn.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has claimed vitamin A and cod liver oil are effective treatments for measles, and that poor diet contributes to severe cases. Well, doctors telling ABC News these claims are unproven, saying vitamin A is not an antiviral treatment against measles, nor is there one available. And while good nutrition can promote a healthy immune system, it is not a substitute for vaccination.
SpaceX capsule heads to the International Space Station for a swap for astronauts Explorer and Sonny Williams.
Look at how it reads.
Come home, ABC's Faith Abube.
The successful launch coming after a hydraulic issue caused NASA and SpaceX to scrub the first attempt Wednesday, just 45 minutes before takeoff. On board the Endurance capsule, 4 astronauts from the U.S., Japan, and Russia, the Crew 19,
was not the custodian of the child.
Exactly.
So there is a validity in having something in place, but they need to go and change the ORC to add that. To add that rather than
Ohio lawmakers are signing off on a plan to authorize hundreds of millions of dollars in state bonds to help fund
the county would open up and let people in that
the Ohio Finance Committee will add language to Governor Mike DeWine's budget plan, which would authorize $600 million in state-backed bonds to help fund Jimmy Haslam's $2.4 billion dome stadium in Brook Park. The Finance Committee will also add language that would drop DeWine's plan to fund stadium construction projects with an increase in taxes in statewide sports gaming. I'm Carmen Angelo.
Now, it is still unclear where this leaves the Cincinnati Bengals. Their stadium lease with Hamilton County is up in 2026. Negotiations have wavered. between
Hey, I have your
ongoing
Python
and
here
stalled.
whenever you want me to bring it by.
A new deal has been announced between the City of
Okay,
Cleveland and the
I heard
Cleveland
it freeze as
Police
well.
Patrolmen's Association. The agreement includes 3% raises in each of the 3 years of the contract.
We got some alligators.
Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb tells 3 News that the raises are well-deserved.
Seriously? Really?
Everything we can.
I tell you what was my favorite of the night.
And really serve
was the
and value the men and women of our police department.
He said in the exit interviews with officers who had left to go to other suburban police departments that compensation played a big part in their decision.
Remind me, there's a
in addition to the raises, the union bargained for shortened service time needed for additional vacation hours and made the $5,000 sign-on
They were really good. I mean,
was it just by itself? Now be approved by City Council and
it was on a stick, and it was a little bit.
The Department of Education is investigating dozens of universities over diversity programs. Some of the schools under investigation: Ohio State and the University of Cincinnati. Largely due to their partnerships with the PhD Project. It's a nonprofit that aims to help minorities get their business degrees. I'm Sandy Collins.
Your latest news, traffic, and weather.
If you're not informed, then you're out of the loop.
All you have to do is ask.
Play 610 WTVN on iHeartRadio.
Brought to you by Day and Night Heating and Cooling Products and Dill Mechanical.
This report is sponsored by Lear Capital.
Our financial system is cracking under pressure. Your retirement is at risk. Take control now. Lear Capital is offering a free Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA guide at betternestegg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Go to betternestegg.com.
I don't see his car up
there.
Back in the studio with a return visit from
Todd
Schmidt. Todd, the last time you were with us, you claimed to be
the dumbest person in Columbus.
You're being really hard on yourself.
Not in the least. You know what I got?
I hate to ask.
It's one of them thermostats with the dial and the needle. Woo, woo, woo.
Maybe that's
Mr.
not
Bachman was here before the start.
Eli Whitney, Elias Howe, Johann Gertis.
I don't know who those people are.
Those are old-timey people from the 19th century, and that's me. Outdated, like my silly old thermostat.
Okay, look, you're not the dumbest guy in Columbus. You just haven't called Apex Pros.
The pros who knows?
Those guys. Whether it's the latest technology, fixing your furnace, or a brand new system, they know all the stuff so you don't have to.
I don't have to know it all?
Nah, you just have to know the pros who knows.
Apex Pros. I'm not the dumbest guy in Columbus.
I didn't even know who Johann Gertis was.
Inventor of the gas-powered unicycle. Look it up, doy.
Okay, you don't have to be me.
No doubt about it. Columbus loves Apex Pros. The pros who knows. ApexPros.com.
It's too wet outside to be in the yard today, and so why not sit back and listen to On Target this live at LEPD. We have news, we have a gun of the week, and attorney Dave Yost is up next. Stand by for On Target.
Live from LEPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, this is On Target, the latest from the firearms industry, the products and politics that affect your hobby and liberty. This program may not be politically correct, but it is On Target. Now, your host, Eric Delbert.
Good afternoon, welcome to On Target. We're broadcasting live from the studios of LEPD Firearms Range and Training Facility. It's located at 999 Bethel Road, just west of 315 if you haven't been here before. Guys, we usually try to ease into the show. We're going to jump into the show today because we have our good friend and our really good friend, Attorney General Dave Yost is on the line with us. How you doing, sir?
I am well. How are you?
It is so good to hear your voice. I know it's been a minute since you've been on, and I've had all these things rolling around in my head, and I'm so glad you called in today.
Well, let's talk about them.
Some of them I had to talk about off air, but that's a whole nother thing. But no, we saw you in the news today, and actually we picked up on it as well. I wanted to start out by talking about some of the oral arguments that the Supreme Court of Ohio heard this week.
Yeah, it's a really weird case. It might be the first time in history that I've agreed with Zach Klein, the leftist city attorney in Columbus, Ohio.
That he
but
is.
The case in front of the Supreme Court is about a very narrow issue, which is should a one local judge in one county be able to put a law on hold for the entire state? And this is kind of the same thing that's going on at the federal level, where we've got a few judges that have, think they're supervisors of the entire federal government and are just obstructing the way for President Trump in his efforts to rein in the scope and size and cost of government. But the thing that brought the case up is the firearms ordinance, that control ordinance that City of Columbus tried to enact. Now, for your listeners, Eric, I know you're very familiar with this, but the state legislature had passed a law that said you can't, we're not going to have a patchwork quilt of different laws about guns. The state is going to have one law for the whole state, and we don't want good Second Amendment citizens that are law-abiding until they accidentally cross a jurisdictional line somewhere. Now there's some local law that they may have violated unwittingly. So one law for the state. The City of Columbus tries to pass its own law in spite of that state law, and some patriots went to Delaware County, and where part of Columbus is in Delaware County, and sued to stop the law, which is appropriate. We don't like it when one judge in one county can subvert the electoral process and the legislative process. So we're in the Supreme Court right now, not arguing about whether Columbus can do this, and I'm on record in court fighting and saying Columbus doesn't have any right to do this. We've already won some cases around this general preemption issue. But what we're arguing about is, and Zach Klein and I both agree on this thing, that you can't have a one county judge who's going to overrule the entire legislature as to all Ohioans. That's just not the way it should work, or it does work. It's anti-democratic. And that was what the argument was about.
So how do you think it went? I didn't hear any of the results. I mean, do you know any of the results at this point, or is that something we still have to wait for?
Yeah, you don't predict what a chef or a judge is going to do before they do it. So we're all waiting, but I'm cautiously optimistic because particularly Justice Pat DeWine had previously written that this is a problem that needs to be addressed, that you shouldn't be able to have a single court judge upending the remember, an act of the legislature has been passed by a majority of the elected representatives of the people, and it's been signed by the governor before it goes into effect. How does a county judge, tell the entire state that doesn't apply? Now, there's people that say, well, what if it's, horribly wrong? You can still do a class action for all similarly situated people. But unless you go through the additional procedural hoops for a class action suit, the case ought to just be the case or controversy between the parties in that jurisdiction, and should not have statewide application.
Right. We're talking to Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. Dave, it is, and we look at this too, it piqued our interest just because of the nature of this particular case. And, we sit around and we look at what the city had proposed and say, heck, if what they proposed was so darn good, why wouldn't we adopt it, as a state? But it's just not that. And you get these cities continually, like Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, who I'm assuming using taxpayer monies to try to challenge preemption, which has gone up to Supreme Court. I think John always said 2 or 3 times.
At least 2 or 3 times. And never have they prevailed. So.
Right. So, going forward, hopefully, at some point they can sit back and maybe, if they do have a valid argument on something that would affect crime in the streets, let's talk about it and run it up through Ohio, but stop this, like you said, patchwork. I can only imagine if we allowed these cities to put into place a magazine ban in Westerville and this ban in Whitehall, and you would have no idea as you drive through these cities how to handle yourself if you're a lawful gun owner.
Well, and that's what the left-wing folks want. They want to make it so difficult for you to own a gun or to carry it to defend yourself that you'll just give up. Fortunately, our legislature has acted to make sure that there's one uniform law across the state, and I'm hopeful that we're nearing the end of this argument, and it's going to be settled going into the future.
Yeah, us as well. Let's talk about some positive things. I was reading as well that we're kicking off the VR goggles again for LE training going forward. For those who don't know about that, talk about that for a minute.
So your typical training for a police officer, you get a little bit of hands-on. You get a lot of book learning like you did in school. But any cop that's been on the beat will tell you, and I know you're sitting with a couple there, the book and the classroom is not the real world. And when it goes down fast. So we have, after you get out of school and get your certificate, you typically go on a training mission where you ride with an older officer, what we call an FTO or a field training officer, to kind of get a feel for it. But a rookie's still a rookie, and you don't really know how you're going to respond to that trauma, that stress moment when fight, flight, or flee kicks in from your lizard brain. And what the VR stuff does is it actually puts you in the situation. It's incredibly immersive and powerful. You get the same emotional and stress reactions. And so the only difference between doing that and being on the street with your FTO is if you take your gun out and shoot somebody and it turns out you're mistaken, there's no harm there. You can learn from that, and you can go through other scenarios. It's been incredibly well received by officers that have done it. We've got lots of real world scenarios at this point, including people in psychotic breaks and with mental health issues, your domestic violence, which, as you know, is one of the most dangerous stops or one of the dangerous incidents an officer responds to. And we're really excited about this because we think it brings an added dimension to the training that is going to get officers ready for the street much more deeply and much more quickly.
Yeah, and you and your staff should be committed. I mean, this is, in the time that I've been in law enforcement, and certainly Ed, for you, the progression of trying to immerse law enforcement into real-world scenarios. When I started, it was as simple as you're on the range, the targets are edged, and all of a sudden they turn and there's good guy, bad guy. That was the extent of it. And now what you're talking about is remarkable. I mean, you put on these goggles and you are immersed. I mean, it's kind of a weird feeling because you feel like you're there. And in law enforcement, like in many other professions, it's all about that repetition. It's practicing. So if you're ever in that scenario, you know in your mind, I've been here before. Oh, I've seen this play out before, and you can hopefully react in a more natural manner than having to think that, oh, geez, now what do I do? And you want it to become second nature, and this type of tool does that, and we're so thankful for it.
I got to tell you, I fancy myself a kind of a tough guy. I mean, I was a newspaper reporter for a while and was on crime scenes, and then I was a prosecutor. I've seen lots of really awful stuff out there, lots of blood and gore and dead bodies, and I put these things on and went through about a 20-minute scenario that ended up in a fatal use of force. And when I took those goggles off, I was shaking, and my eyes were misting, and I had a reaction as though I had been there when the lethal force was used. It is a powerful, powerful tool, and I think it has. I really think it has the potential to take our officers to the next level.
Is there any? I mean, have you ever? I'm sure you guys have. Have you ever put local media through it or civilians? I mean, I think there's a lot to be said to show some of these people who are quick to come on the scene and say the officer should have done X, Y, Z, but to put them through something like this, and it's a simulation to show them a fraction of what the actual stress level would be under an actual scenario. I think that would be so powerful.
That's a great idea, Eric. I think we ought to do. Of course, for years, right after the George Floyd thing, when we were having all the nonsense about, why don't the police just, shoot them in the leg or shoot the gun out of their hand like on TV. We started bringing into the simulators, which are not as advanced as the VR, but we've been using those for about 15 years. And we would bring the TV reporter in, put the blue gun in their hand, bring up a scenario, and say, "All right, you're a police officer. Go into this scenario and make the right decision." And most of the time, the reporters died in the simulation, but they came out of it with their eyes wide open. I can only imagine if they went through this themselves, what it would look like.
Right.
I'm looking forward to seeing this. This is actually the first I've heard of the new VR system, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for all departments to have it at mandatory training, especially for smaller departments that don't see the crime and don't get involved in it that much because of where they're located, versus like the city officers that have so much more calls, more gun calls, more domestic violence calls, and they get so much more used to it and are able to deal with it a little easier than your smaller departments.
Right.
And I think it's awesome. And Dave, kudos to you to get this going. I look forward to it.
And I think too, I would love to bring something similar to this to the concealed carry holders. To people who are out there carrying. We've talked about it for a long time. And it's neat with the VR, you don't need the footprint that you used to have when you had the big, simulation rooms and stuff. So, it's great technology. Right. And some of it, even now, you can actually load specific videos. So they have the ability to, if you live in the north end of town, come here, do the simulator. We're going to record Walmart down the street, and it looks like you're walking to Walmart off of Bethel Road. And here, so it's, it's scenarios where you would recognize the setting. That's so powerful. I think it's the possibilities are so endless.
And not only having the media go through this and show them what the officers go through, have the prosecutors and the judges do it. What more information could they possibly need than to feel that stress and that split-second decision-making that we have to go through?
Right.
Good point.
Right. We're talking to Attorney General Dave Yost. Dave, do you have one more second?
I do.
One other thing, and this is more a little bit on a personal nature, but it came up a couple times this week, and I just want your thoughts on it. We see what appears to be such a discrepancy between prosecutors and judges from county to county. And this week I just happened to be involved in a couple things, obviously in Franklin County, and was really disappointed at the lack of the system to take a case and go with it. And one of the things actually hit us here, and we haven't even talked about it yet, and I don't know if we mentioned this one to you previously, but we had somebody threaten to come shoot up our store recently. And it was at the end of January, and they posted a picture of our building, happened to be of our Trump sign, and said something to the effect, "Looks like a good day to shoot up a shooting range." And obviously it put us in a high alert state. Authorities were called. All these things went into place because you don't know the capabilities of the person posting something like that, or maybe they're inspiring somebody else. And it came down this week.
I wonder if they understand that. I wonder if they understand you're in a position to return fire.
Well, that's a whole different ball game, because some of the employees were anxious to cover the doors. Let's just say that. But the thing that was so frustrating, and I think this to be true, when we know who it is, and all along we were thinking about this is probably an inducing panic charge. It met all the criteria of inducing panic. Certainly sent us into a tailspin for a few hours there when we didn't know if it was imminent. We had to check people in the store. And it seems like it seems now, I think this is true, that the county is saying that they wouldn't charge that, and the best they can do is disorderly conduct. And I'm thinking, how does that set a message out there that you can go out there and say something so dangerous and really barely get slapped on the wrist for that? It's so frustrating what we see county to county.
It is, and I certainly don't want to condone the soft on crime approach that I see in some of our big cities. At the same time, I have to point out that we don't really want to give the government the authority to decide what's dangerous and what's not, because, brother, this show would be deemed by Mayor Ginther to be dangerous.
True. Yeah.
So you do not want to give them the authority. So the way our law works in any of these things, when you're dealing with speech alone, is that there has to be some additional objective element that makes it more than just speech. So in inducing panic, you have to have members of the public that are panicked. In aggravated menacing or menacing threats, you have to have a present capability of being able to carry out the threats and a bona fide belief that that might happen in the part of the victim. So there's these additional pieces that we do that actually protects our freedom. And I understand what you're saying, and totally am on board that what they did was wrong. On the other hand, on this particular case, and I haven't seen the file, I just got your 30-second description of what the facts were. I don't see enough here based on your summary to go forward with the charge. There might be, that doesn't mean it's not there. I want to point out to everybody a little educational moment.
Yep.
Don't let the government start policing speech, because we'll all be in jail.
Great point, and that's why that's why we need to lean on and look to people like yourself. I mean, that we're just a layperson in that regard, and it's good to hear that side of it. And sometimes we need to open our eyes up a little bit and say, okay, you know what? There's other ramifications, and if we do this, then like you said, who knows what's next? Though, so definitely appreciate it. Well, we have taken way more of your time than I know you have on a busy Saturday.
I'm afraid I've been taking your time.
No, not at all. Come anytime.
We love having you. Love having you on in person, Dave.
Yeah, let me know when you want to come by and brush up on some of the shooting and stuff. We'd love to go out there with you again.
Yeah, I was telling my security detail yesterday that I've had a very high level of frustration the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I usually shoot, as you know, a 9 or a 380, depending on what I'm wearing. But I'm thinking I need to get that 40 Smith out and do a couple hundred rounds and hurt my wrist just to kind of work it out.
We're ready for you anytime. Just yell.
Hey, Dave, I think you move that 40 up to a 45 there, my friend.
Oh, you 45 guys. Never give it up.
Well, thanks so much, Dave. Have a great...
We'll start hearing about night.
We lost him.
We'll talk about it in person over coffee.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for calling in, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. Always good to hear from him. Guys, we've got to jump to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get to news, gun of the week, and so much more. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Farms Range. We'll be right back.
Sorry, Ella. When is that VR stuff?
Not going to be a quick break. It's going to be a big break.
I know. So what? Big break. Will that just go right into news, or what do you want to do? How does that work?
That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to combine it all. You'll be back in like 10 minutes here. I don't know.
That's fine.
Oh, man.
I don't know yet.
That's fine.
You only want a minute over.
I mean, we want 6 minutes over. So, Ella,
10 minutes. Well, we can play euchre. So anyway, I'm going to bring it down.
You just let us know when we'll be back, and we'll do whatever.
Wow. Well, let's cut the volumes and let's talk to our listeners. We got several of them that are saying that the Columbus Citizens Review Board needs to do this VR training.
Yeah.
Amen. I agree. There you go. 100%.
Yeah. Maybe twice they need to see that.
Yeah, at least twice.
There was just in vain with that. I did a story a couple of years ago, but it was another police shooting. It was down south, and the protester, the lead guy, he was just all upset. We got to get rid of him. We got to charge him with murder. So he did agree to go through one of these training sessions with a police officer. and that he ended up shooting and killing three people in his virtual. And he said, "Man," he goes, "you guys have to go through this." He was shooting people through car. He just was so afraid, and he said, "Wow," and he stopped protest. Good. So he was a leader, but when they saw, he goes, "Yeah, wow." He said, he goes, "We just gotta." Yeah, the police officer was waiting to the end and seeing what happened, but not him.
You know what?
It's pretty interesting.
I mean, having one of those, it's been a while since we looked at it, but having one of those VRs here, I mean, that would be phenomenal to be able to send people through the CHL holders or people who carry.
Yeah, and again, you talked about it that at one time, but
I know
the technology goes so fast. You don't want to invest in these big projectors.
Well, these now, this one is just a headset. I think you might have to get a special gun for it, but it's a headset, and presumably you can upload and keep it going indefinitely with software updates and everything else.
Well, it's just entertainment venues have been doing it for a long time.
I think that's something.
I think like the one that we demoed. It had boundary, like you put like a little, almost like a traffic cone with a pole in it, and it knew that those are the boundaries, and so you could walk within that square, like 10 by 10, and you could get to the edge, and then it would be kind of a wall in what you were looking at. But when you put them on, it felt like you were there. It was neat, and this has been probably 3 or 4 years. I can't imagine the stuff now.
Hey, I have not had the opportunity to try those, but if he's working on making that part of training, I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
And I truly hope that it gets, and it would be, like you said, it would be an awesome thing to have here in the store, and in using your self-defense classes that you put on.
Absolutely.
So people know the high stress situations and what the ramifications are, because they got it on video, they were involved in it. Now you're in the book half of it saying you're going to be charged with this.
And you know what? We have a full CCW class today. I mean, it's really great to see these classes filling up. But we were just talking to one of the instructors on the break, and one of the people got up and left 20 minutes into it, half an hour into it. It is, you have to know in your heart that you can carry a firearm and
use it.
And you could potentially harm someone really bad or take somebody else's life. And sometimes that's the breaking point for us. And that's okay. Good to hear it here, that rather than having it out there and someone take the gun from you. But I mean, I think furthermore, putting someone through something like this virtual reality would really, you might get people saying, okay, this isn't for me.
And as an aside, I don't know why the person left or anything, but in our classes, the first part is the law. So we have people that, hey, I've been carrying, but if you need to know the law, that's what we start off with first. And I don't care who you are. Hey, I don't need it. I've got concealed carries passed in Ohio, but do you know the law? And that's the first part of it. So I'm surprised on circumstances, at least didn't stay to hear all about the law, but we can do that. If you just want to hear the law part, we still you can still pay a much reduced fee, come in and learn the law.
That's not the same as knowing the law and then actually getting involved in a situation in a shooting like that.
I didn't mean to even say that. I just was on the point that the guy left, but yeah, you're absolutely right. That would be totally different. I mean,
that was a fast 10 minutes.
Yeah, and we running right to 57, Ella.
Nope.
I tried. Yeah. You can't blame me for trying.
Unless you want me to add another 2 minutes of commercials right now.
You can add it 2 minutes at 57. How about 57 to 59? I'm teasing you. No, it would be
55.
I'm teasing you.
I saw a video of an officer that was involved in should have been a shooting death of the suspect, where the guy was coming at her.
Live from LEPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, this is On Target, the latest from the firearms industry, the products and politics that affect your hobby and liberty. This program may not be politically correct, but it is On Target. Now, your host, Eric Delbert.
Welcome back to On Target. I'm your host, Eric, joined today in the LEPD studios. I didn't even get to say who is here. Yeah. JC is here. Yeah. JC, I got Big Ed.
Hello. Hello. And we have an audience here, so
it's so good to hear Attorney General Dave Yost. I could sit here and talk to him for an hour. Yeah. We do when he comes in, but so good to hear from him, and thank him again for giving us a call. A couple things, guys, since we're kind of flipped around a little bit here, I wanted to. Well, you know what?
What?
I'm still stuffed, Ed, from all the Python I ate last night.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, that's...
Missed out on that. How good was it?
It was really good. Actually, everything was really good. We tried. Luke and I had python, we had yak, we had camel meatballs, we had all kinds of stuff. Bobcat chowder, which was phenomenal. Venison, of course.
Alligator.
Yeah, alligator. Yeah, it was really, really good. We were at the Wild Game Dinner last night. Great event, and I do have one little thing that came out of it, Ed, and I hate to bring these things up on air. You know me. You know me. And we call you Big Ed because you're kind of a towering person. You kind of command.
Imposing. He's an imposing figure.
Yes.
All right.
You kind of command presence and stuff.
Yes, I do.
And you're out there and you deer hunt, and you're like the man's man. And then I catch wind. Listen to this, JC. That in sometime around 2019, he goes and gets a deer, but he has somebody else clean it for him.
Well, wait a minute.
That's what I heard, Ed. Now, I don't know.
I'm not going to deny it. It's true, but it's not that I asked him to clean it. He came out when I told him.
You can't clean your own stuff?
No, hold on. I was bragging about the fact that I shot this nice buck.
Yes.
And a good friend of mine that's out there at the farm where we hunted, he shows up and he says, "Wow, that's awesome." And he goes, "Let me clean it for you."
You could have said,
down. No, I'm Big Ed. Let me go ahead and clean that.
Hey, you know what? I wanted to get his expertise cleaning to see if I'm doing it wrong.
Okay. Let me know.
Thank you, Jerry. And thanks for telling him that, Jerry.
I have pictures too, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that's what happens when you don't show up, Big Ed, at these events. Guys, we should thank our guest from last week, our good friend Spencer Badger from CPD. He's the officer who got fired, and if you haven't heard that interview, definitely worthwhile going back and listening to. We're going to post on Facebook, hopefully today, a couple QR codes to his videos and a QR code if you want to be able to help him out. And we're also announcing today, and I think it might start up today, if not, definitely on Tuesday, we are going to raffle off a Smith & Wesson FPC. That's the 49 millimeter.
Yeah.
We're going to raffle those off, $20 a ticket. And all the proceeds of that are going to go to him and his family because obviously now, with him getting let go by the city, struggling a little bit there.
Family and kids and just on the boom.
Yeah, so stop by the store and get a part of that. It's definitely for a good cause.
The tickets out there,
and all the money's going to go. All the money's going to go to the family.
All the money's going to the family.
Right.
Yep. And let's see, what else do we have? We got to thank our sponsors. You know what? I actually had a chance this week to call the sponsors, and actually I haven't talked to them all that much in last couple months, but I wanted to give a shout out. U.S. Law Shield has been a great sponsor of ours. They do so much for us, a great company, and they not only partner with us, but they partner with a lot of people around the country that carry firearms. And it is, if you haven't checked into it, is certainly worthwhile checking into it. They are a good company, and they have a new program going on. I think if you come here and sign up, not only do you get the first month free, I think they're giving a $20 gift card to spend in the store as well. So a lot of good things. Definitely one that we recommend. Another sponsor we haven't talked about in forever is Jackson Egress Windows. They have been a sponsor of ours since the beginning. And you might say, who is Jackson Egress Windows? If you have a basement and you want to really turn that into a living space, they have the ability to take that basement window, that small window sometimes you see that in the basement, and make that into an exit, or really open up a basement to be living space. They do a wonderful job and have been a sponsor of ours from the beginning. And what else? Oh, of course, Blackwing Shooting Center. A lot of events coming up. Their Spring Trap League is getting ready to start, so you want to check that out. On May 9th, though, is their annual clay shoot to support Lifeside Ohio in the suicide prevention. This is the one that we're part of. We sit on the board along with Vance Outdoors and Blackwing, and I sent a message to those guys this week. They're going to come and join us again for a show. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember all their shows. It's an excellent range, especially in shotgun and outdoor shooting.
Yep, definitely.
And it's 5-star.
Always good to partner with Mark over at Vance and, of course, Joe at Blackwing. So that's coming up shortly, and then finally, River's Edge, guys. If you haven't been to their new place, you got to check it out in Hilliard. It's in the old Bobby Ray Hall building.
Oh, I've been there.
Gorgeous building. I popped in this week. I was looking for a new carry bag, and they have a great selection of Vertex and all kinds, not just one, but a whole wall of all kinds of stuff, in addition to knives and all kinds of other little things. I talked to Mike, one of the owners, and they are close to coming out with their own line of knives.
Oh, excellent.
Which is really, really neat. So watch for that, and they're going to pop in and talk about it here.
So River's Edges. So what they're
River's Edge.
Okay,
there you go. There you go. Cool. And what else? JC, you got a little news?
We have a lot of news, but here's a big one that just happened this week on Monday. The 7th Court of Appeals. This pretty much endorses the National Firearms Act. There were challenges to that on somebody who had a short-barreled rifle. They were caught with a short-barreled rifle, and they said, look, they're popular, they're out there, and really, according to the Bruin and Heller decisions, that they thought that, hey, they're not uncommon, and I shouldn't have to register it. That was the challenge. So he did get arrested, he did get charged, so he took it up to the Court of Appeals. Well, the unfortunate news is the Court of Appeals, the 3 judges that heard this, were all recent Biden appointees. 1, 2, 3. And Judge Joshua Kohler wrote the, of course, unanimous court opinion that, he can be charged. Now, the seventh oversees Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. So all like bluish states, some very, very blue, and I think that's why they're there.
Gun haters.
Gun haters, right. So, but his quote was simply that the record does not show that such firearms are commonly used by ordinary law-abiding people. And short-barreled rifles are not as common. So you can't argue with that statement, but he said that they're not used for the lawful purposes of self-defense. So this ruling pretty much further backs the NFA's, one of the first rulings they had, but pretty much when the court was established. It was called the U.S. versus Miller. And this was back in the days when the gangsters, sawed off BARs and all of a sudden we're shooting up everything, robbing banks and with all the prohibition stuff. That's how long it goes back. And they said in effect, that case actually was on a sawed-off shotgun. That person said that the court upheld that. So they did that. Here's what surprised me about this. I guess it shouldn't have surprised me based on this court. But the judges, the 3 judges, appointees, Candace Jackson Akawumi, John Lee, and as I in the previous mentioned judge, what they noted in the writing, they noted that the law doesn't outright ban short-barreled rifles, and instead it seeks to collect taxes on them and register them, and because they're not that common, so they believed that was okay. Well, here's what I didn't like. He also concluded that the effective guns aren't in common use, as I mentioned, especially since they're less popular than the AR-15s that we've already concluded the government can ban.
Wow.
So they said, knowing that was their mindset, what would pass muster there? But they've already concluded the government can ban the sale of AR-15.
And I would argue the judge said it would be short-barreled rifles would be much more popular if there wasn't a tax stamp on them. I mean, I would only imagine that it would be up there.
But just the fact that how could that stand a chance when he goes, right. Well, we already can ban all the AR-15s, of which there's over 30 million of recently on and that statistic of 30 million, that was from 1990 to 1922 when this period came out for the FBI. And it's been for sale since January of 1964. So how many from 64 all the way up? They didn't even include this. So there's a lot of those out there. So anyway, they can appeal it to the full 7th Circuit, which already made that opinion on the AR-15s, or take it to Supreme Court. Okay, that's one. The big one that we talked about earlier, and you sent me that information. Since then, I found out something else. More woes for Sig Sauer. The Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission has prohibited recruits from training with a Sig Sauer P320. This is just new. Has banned the pistol from the commission's campuses after a report that it can fire without pulling the trigger. So this was issued on February 24th by the executive director, Monica Alexander, who made a permanent prohibition of the Sig Sauer 320 on February. Prior to that, on October of last year, they put a temporary ban because a recruit in the basic training class that they had in Spokane reported that a Sig Sauer P320 self-discharged as he drew it to fire targets on the police range. And the round struck the ground behind him, wounding a recruit and injuring a firearm instructor. The recruit... insisted his trigger was indexed alongside the frame, and it was outside the trigger guard when he drew the weapon. So people go, yeah, that's what they insist. But the firearms instructor confirmed, stating he watched the recruit's hand and that the weapon immediately fired when he's withdrawing it, and his finger was not on the trigger. So what did they do? They did something smart. They said, hey, after all these incidents, let's get a temporary ban until we work this, and they formed a working group of police officials, firearms instructors, criminal justice training commission staff, and representatives from SIG. They had working groups, they had 4 meetings, and what they did was review reports, but also videos. And the work group uncovered a number of lawsuits and videos of the incidents, including a Sig Sauer P320 firing while in a holster, and included a 2022 body cam video of an officer in Milwaukee who was wounded when his partner's gun discharged while it was in the holster. And I love this one, not loved it, but another, no one got injured, but another body camera video in 2023 incident in New Jersey where an officer's holstered firearm goes off in the lobby of the police station. So they had videos of all this. So the Washington Post and this firearms investigation group, they're not normally our friends, The Trace, in a story published in 2023, detailed the safety issues surrounding the P320 Sig Sauer, and found more than 80 instances where people were injured by their own gun. There have been several saying, hey, it went off, but no one got hurt, but they had 80, and many of those were supported by, or several of those were supported by body cams. So this gun has been out since 2014. There's over 500,000 in circulation in the United States. And of course, this is the firearm that's the standard arm called the M17 and M18 for our U.S. military. So this all happened, and on the date of this, this came out. But so what did SIG do? They just responded. And number one, when I saw this, which you sent me, first it said confidential for SIG staff, But then it seemed like another public release that was released on letterhead. And they just called it The Truth About the SIG P320. That was their headline. And it just starts out the first sentence, and this was on March 7th, they released this. The P320, capitalized all the way, cannot, under any circumstances, discharge without a trigger pull. And nothing more than individuals seeking to profit or to avoid personal liability. And recently, the mainstream media attorneys and other uninformed, agenda-driven parties have launched attacks on one of Sig Sauer's most trusted, most tested, and most popular products, the P320 pistol. In all cases, individuals have an ulterior motive behind the baseless allegation the P320 can fire without a trigger pull, and they have no evidence, no data, no empirical testing to support any of their claims. Instead, they choose to misrepresent clear, negligent discharges as a design problem. It goes on. I'm not going to read but basically they're saying the rhetoric was high, this is unfair, and that this gun has been severely tested, and it will not fire. So it's, but one industry, take notice of what's happening today to Sig Sauer with the anti-gun mob and their lawfare tactics. It can happen tomorrow at another firearms manufacturer, and then another and another. Today for Sig Sauer, this ends. So there.
It was a very, passionate letter they put out. And I feel them in some respects, because I know some of these things can go down a rabbit hole and it hits the internet, and I feel for them. I just don't know where I sit, because and I've never personally checked into some of these allegations, or you hear these studies and this and that, and there were some lawsuits we talked about seemed to be convincing. I haven't seen it with my own eyes. So I don't know.
The videos were out there when it first came out. Hey, there was this new gun, and they had a report of it, and they were dropping it off of a ladder. You can still see that out there, and they a 6-foot ladder. On the third time they dropped it, it was loaded with blanks, but they discharged on the third time, and it was just from a fall. Granted, it fall from a ladder. It was probably a 4 or 5 foot fall.
At the beginning.
And they must have done something with the military. Right. The military has safeties on their guns, and they're demanded to be on, so it's got a manual safety. That may have
I don't know.
But officers, one's a 20, one was a 20-year-old, a 20-year veteran instructor for the U.S. Army, and his gun went off. He wasn't hurt, but it discharged.
I just don't know if it's holster related, or maybe there's a common denominator and they're using the same holster, and that holster's pressing up against. I don't know. I don't know where I fall. I'm certainly not going to say, hey, don't go buy a Sig 320, because I just don't. I don't know. I don't have a comfort level either way. So.
Anyway, so that's their letter, and that's also.
So they're going to stick to their guns.
Yeah, there you go.
They are.
Stick to their guns.
I guess
320.
I mean, my thoughts are on it. And if there's so many cases out there of it supposedly going off on itself, that Sig would make an offer. See, if you don't trust the weapon and you feel like it's not safe, send it back. I'll buy it back.
They lost the last two cases. The first one was like a little over $1 million. Then they had a $2.3 million. Now there's another $11 million.
So wouldn't that be cheaper to buy the damn gun back rather than take a $2 million lawsuit?
I would think so, but but let's face it, Sig Sauer makes some of the best guns out there.
That's what I'm
understanding. Period. They're so reliable. Rifles, pistols, they're just excellent company.
Guys, let's jump to a break here at the appropriate break time, Ella. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about a couple other things, a little bit of news, and maybe a little bit about the city lawsuit about gun bans. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms Range. We'll be back right after the break.
Filling your news feed.
What new gun ban?
Well, not the whole thing on locking up your guns.
Oh, this was interesting because in these articles I've read, it turns out that this cartridge, there may be political reasons why they're doing it. So
really?
States are being led. And that's part of my story, but there are. This is the most popular round in the world, and has been since. The long rifle's been out for 138 years, and because it's all lead. So California they passed this area with 240.
They're not talking about the 365, Dave or Danny. It's the P320 they're speaking of. I own two 6 hours myself, 45 and a 9. They're not the hammerless. They both have hammers with, and I've never had any issues with them.
Weather in 10 seconds.
I did have a.
Wow.
By the airport.
Your ABC 6 first warning weather for today. Rain and thunderstorms are likely. A few strong storms are possible. It's going to be windy, though, high of 71. Tonight, rain and thunderstorms are likely again. Windy, low of 56. Sunday, scattered showers, rain, and windy again. Pretty much the same thing the next 2 days, high of 62. Next week, though, starts to get a little bit cooler. It's going to be in the low 50s for Monday. It's currently 60 degrees on your Chevrolet weather station, News Radio 610, WTVN.
Traffic, weather, and interesting talk. News Radio 610 WTVN.
Anyways, like I was saying, and somebody else made the case here for me. 100 cases of accidental discharges with this weapon versus thousands, tens of thousands of these guns being sold. I can understand. I can understand where 6 Hour would come back with that letter.
Of course, I understand it too.
But again, I don't. My thing would be, because my name is out there and because we have such a quality weapon. If you don't feel safe with that weapon, give it back to me. I'll buy it back from you.
Yeah.
And then make good on your name as well as the gun.
Yep.
Body cam images, though,
I know that's
a little different. And the one where the guy's walking in the station and discharges it his holster.
I understand that you got videos of it, but here's a good point. You watch a video of a officer on a traffic stop on a body cam. The human eye sees and picks up so much more than these body cams and the car videos. So there may be something that's not being picked up that you're not seeing.
Right.
And it's everybody says, officers have to use body cams. They got to use car cams. It's demanded. We want to see what's going on. Well, you got it. You'll see it. But it's not going to be 100% of what the human eye picks up.
Right. The peripheral that you see is so much different than just the body cam.
Well,
JC, let's table. There's going to be a minute for that, talking about that cartridge. I don't want to shortchange it.
Okay.
Because we're down to the last 4 minutes.
We can hold off on that.
But I do want to get to something. I think I misspoke. I said City of Columbus gun ban. It may as well be a gun ban. But one of the things that Attorney General Dave Yost was talking about with the Supreme Court of Ohio hearing the arguments this week was the city of Columbus, and part of what they were trying to put into place was the ban on 30-round magazines. Yep. The other part of it, and this is kind of interesting, guys, and this is something that maybe there's room to grow and reach an agreement here. The other part of it was the safe storage of firearms. So remember, that was going to be written into law, so you could be charged if you didn't have your firearm secured from a child or something like that. And we said all along, I mean, that's all part of what you should be doing if it's not in your immediate possession.
Absolutely, right.
The concern is with how they wrote this is that it appears that if an officer was at your house for something, whatever it is, and they visually saw a firearm laying out and they knew you had children, you could be charged for that. And you might be a family where the kids are proficient in the firearms and everything else, but yet the way this was written, you could be charged for that. So that's why I think so many, law-abiding firearms owners get up in arms with this stuff, because it's so one-sided when they wrote it. Here's something, though, I found out this week that might lend credence of doing something. So our argument always has been if in these cases when a firearm is left and a child finds it and does harm to himself or herself or somebody else, we always say you could charge that parent or guardian with child endangerment. And it's been done many times. Here's where it falls short with the Ohio law. The Ohio law for child endangerment, it reads in part, the beginning of it is, no person who is the parent, guardian, custodian, or person having custody or control of the person shall, do something to harm that child. It's important how they list that, because what has come into play, and I was talking to some prosecutors this week, what has come into play is when, for instance, boyfriend goes over to girlfriend's house, leaves their gun laying around, the child does something with that, harms themselves or somebody else, that boyfriend isn't the parent, isn't the guardian, isn't the custodial guardian of that, and so the prosecutors aren't able to charge this, and all they can charge is something way less rather than the full force of child endangerment. In reality, the ORC probably needs updated or changed to encompass somebody like that who neglectfully leaves it there, who isn't the custodial parent or guardian, because they said that is happening now a lot, and that's where the prosecutors are getting hung up, not being able to charge these people.
Yeah, I mean, that's just...
So why don't... I mean, it just goes to show you, why aren't the Zach Kleins of the world and the county prosecutors who all conspire to put these ridiculous city laws into place, why don't they bring somebody else in the mix who knows a little bit,
who says, who knows,
yeah,
who experiences
nobody's
smarter than them.
It's crazy, because there could be some validity in changing the ORC to help that. That's something we'd get behind, absolutely. But the way they write it in such an anti-gun stance, it gets everyone on the defense, and we're like, heck with it. No, that whole thing is bad, whereas there could be something valid in there.
We've already said that. I mean, get the people who are there, work in the street, to work with this problem instead of people, sitting there drinking their martinis. Oh yeah, we'll do this, and this, and no, you need to. I mean, it's common sense, which is not common.
It is, and it's gun haters, and it's somebody who's
so
smarter than everybody else.
Yeah, I didn't know this. When I read this, it's no wonder some of these circumstances. You wonder, why aren't they charging the parents? Well, because it wasn't the parent; it was some visitor, and
it was some visitor or something else.
So
let's write that law and put it into place so those people who are negligent in doing that, let's let the law come down on them, rather than putting something into place like they suggested that gets all the gun owners up in arms, because it could be applied to me if I happen to have something laying around, so.
Yeah, I'm going to have to
read that
whole section of the law. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So what else, guys? Anything else as we go into the final minute? That's all I had. I got nothing else. That's it. I've gone through all my pages, JC.
I bet John's got something.
Well, we do. This is a prep for coming up. We can talk about next week, too. But this is really an important date coming up. The foundation of the Second Amendment and our Constitution. And on April 19th, which is a Saturday this year. 250 years ago, this April 19th, is when the British government went to Concord to take away all their guns, their ammo, and everything from the citizens. And it's when the shot heard round the world occurred, when farmers and storekeepers went out and faced the most powerful army in the world. They led up the narrow bridge. Shots were fired. So they want everyone to go to your gun store, gun ranges at 8:30 in the morning, which is about the time it occurred early in the morning. Go to a gun range and take a shot in memory of the fact that 250 years ago is when our freedom began.
And we're going to talk much more about that. JC, I forgot to wish you happy Pi Day, too.
Radio preset and the new and improved iHeart Radio app. Save 610 WTVN Columbus on your presets. Free. Never sounded so good.
JC, was that
and it's March, and it's a great time of the year for basketball and a great time of the year for me to visit my friends at Germain Honda of Dublin to take advantage of savings that are a slam dunk. Their service is the best, and so is their selection. More than 500 new and pre-owned vehicles, Civics, Accords, HRVs, CRVs, Pilots, and Odysseys, with rates as low as 0% and leases starting at $249 a month. And right now, you can get an extra $1,000 on your trade-in. Same-day service available. See dealer for details. Germain Honda of Dublin at Sawmill and 270, or check them out online at GermainHondaofDublin.com.
Simple Bath and Kitchen. Local, trusted, and focused on what matters.
Because your dream kitchen or bath should never come with pressure.
Just the best quality and service in Columbus.
Learn more at SimpleBathAndKitchen.com. Happy New Year!
If you think you need a new roof, think again. 9 out of 10 roofs can be rejuvenated at a fraction of the cost of a replacement. RoofMax can extend its life by up to 15 years. Just dial 1-800-ROOFMAX for your free evaluation. During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places you can't control. Between payroll, your home office, your tax preparer, and the IRS, if your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Heroes like Austin Reese have paid a high price for our freedom. Austin served 3 deployments to Iraq. He spent 13 years with the Navy Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit and became a military freefall instructor. But in what was thought to be a routine jump, something went terribly wrong. Austin was left paralyzed. Tunnel to Towers built Austin a specially adapted smart home. Help heroes. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
JC,
your station for news, traffic, and weather in Central Ohio. News Radio 610 WTVN Columbus. WDC HD2 Asheville, an iHeart Radio station.
Well, yeah, in a bar maybe. Okay, here we go. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we keep you updated on your right to keep and bear arms, and the Gun of the Week is sponsored by Jackson Egress Windows. Tune in right here Saturday at noon or live from LEPD Studios on Bethel Road. Tune in tomorrow at noon or live from LEPD Studios on Bethel Road.